David sat in the uncomfortable folding chair, his phone on silent in his pocket. The auditorium was packed with parents, grandparents, and siblings, all waiting for the winter recital to begin. He'd left work early to make it on time, and now his 8-year-old daughter was somewhere backstage, probably nervous and excited at the same time. The lights dimmed, and his heart did that thing it always did at moments like these. 3 years. It had been 3 years since the car accident. 3 years since he'd become a single father overnight. 3 years since he'd had to figure out how to braid hair, pack lunches, and explain to a little girl why mommy wasn't coming home anymore. The first few kids performed their pieces. Some stumbled through scales, others played simple melodies with careful concentration. David clapped politely for each one, but his mind kept wandering. His daughter had been practicing for weeks. She'd insisted on playing a difficult piece, something way above her level. He'd worried she was pushing herself too hard, but her piano teacher said she had a gift. The same gift her mother had. Then it was her turn. Lily walked onto the stage in the blue velvet dress they'd picked out together last weekend. Her dark hair was pulled back the way she liked it, and she looked so small next to the grand piano. David's throat tightened. She looked so much like her mother in that moment that it hurt. She sat down, adjusted the bench, and placed her hands on the keys. The auditorium fell silent. Then she began to play, and David forgot to breathe. The music poured out, each note clear and beautiful. It was Chopin, the same piece her mother used to play on Sunday mornings. He'd had no idea Lily had chosen this one. She'd kept it a secret. Tears blurred his vision, but he didn't wipe them away. Other parents probably thought he was just a proud dad, emotional about his kid's performance. They didn't know he was watching his wife's hands moving through his daughter's fingers, hearing echoes of lazy weekend mornings when life had been simple and full. When Lily finished, the applause was thunderous. She stood up, gave a small bow, and for just a second her eyes found his in the crowd. She smiled, and he smiled back, giving her a thumbs up. She'd done it. She'd played beautifully. Her mother would have been so proud. The recital continued, but David barely heard the rest of it. He was thinking about bedtime stories and goodnight kisses, about parent-teacher conferences he attended alone, about birthday parties where other kids had 2 parents taking pictures. He was thinking about how tired he was, how every single day felt like a marathon he hadn't trained for. When the recital finally ended, parents flooded the aisles to find their kids. David made his way backstage where Lily was bouncing on her toes, still buzzing with excitement. "Did you hear me, Daddy? Did I do okay?" "You were perfect," he said, kneeling down to hug her. "I'm so proud of you." "I wanted to play Mommy's song," she whispered into his shoulder. "Do you think she heard it?" David's chest ached. "I think she heard every note, sweetheart." They gathered her coat and backpack, said goodbye to her teacher, and headed out into the winter night. The snow had gotten worse during the recital. What had been light flurries when they arrived was now a full storm. The parking lot was covered in several inches of fresh powder, and more was falling fast. "Wow," Lily breathed, her eyes wide. "It's like a snow globe." "It's like a blizzard," David muttered, pulling her hood up. "Stay close to me, okay?" They trudged through the snow toward their car, which was parked near the back of the lot. The wind whipped around them, and David kept one hand on Lily's shoulder to make sure she didn't slip. The temperature had dropped significantly, and he could see his breath in the air. They were almost to the car when Lily suddenly stopped. "Daddy, wait." "What's wrong, honey?" "We need to get in the car before we freeze. There's someone over there." She pointed toward the edge of the parking lot, near a tall snowbank. David squinted through the falling snow. At first he didn't see anything. Then he spotted what Lily had noticed, a dark shape against the white snow, near the chain-link fence that bordered the parking lot. It looked like a pile of clothes, but something about it made his stomach drop. "Stay here," he told Lily. "But Daddy, stay right here by this car. Don't move." He jogged toward the shape, his dress shoes slipping on the icy pavement. As he got closer, his worst fear was confirmed. It wasn't a pile of clothes. It was a person lying motionless in the snow. "Hey," David called out, breaking into a run. "Hey, can you hear me?" The person didn't move. David's heart hammered in his chest as he dropped to his knees beside them. It was a woman lying on her side, half buried in the snow. She was wearing a thin coat, completely inappropriate for this weather. Her lips had a bluish tint and snow had collected in her hair. "Ma'am?" "Can you hear me?" David gently touched her shoulder, then checked for a pulse. It was there, faint but steady. She was alive, but clearly in trouble. He needed to turn her over to see if she was breathing properly. Carefully, he rolled her onto her back, brushing the snow from her face. And then his world tilted sideways. The face looking up at him, unconscious and pale, was his wife's face. For several long seconds, David's brain simply couldn't process what he was seeing. It was impossible. His wife was gone. He'd been to her funeral. He'd stood at her grave. This couldn't be her, but the resemblance was beyond uncanny. The same delicate features, the same nose, the same shape of her eyebrows. Even her hair, though darker with melted snow, had that same slight wave. "Daddy?" Lily's voice snapped him back to reality. She'd followed him despite his instructions. "I told you to stay by the car, Lily. Is she okay? We need to help her, right?" David's hands were shaking, but not from the cold. He fumbled for his phone. "Yes, baby, we need to help her. Can you run back to the building and tell the first adult you see that we need an ambulance? Should I call 911? No, I'll do that. Just get someone, okay? Fast." Lily took off running, and David dialed with trembling fingers. As he gave the dispatcher their location, he shrugged off his coat and laid it over the unconscious woman. She needed to be kept warm. Hypothermia could kill someone fast in weather like this. While he waited for the ambulance, he kept looking at her face. Up close, he could see small differences. A tiny scar near her temple that his wife hadn't had. Slightly fuller lips. But the overall impression was so similar it made his head spin. Who was this woman? How had she ended up passed out in a snowbank on a night like this? And why did she look exactly like someone who'd been dead for 3 years? The ambulance arrived within minutes, lights flashing through the snow. Paramedics rushed over with a stretcher and equipment. David stepped back, letting them work. One of them asked him questions. Had he found her? How long had she been there? Was she breathing when he found her? He answered automatically, his mind elsewhere. Lily pressed against his side, watching the paramedics with wide eyes. Other people had gathered now, teachers and parents from the recital, all standing at a distance, murmuring. They loaded the woman onto the stretcher. As they wheeled her toward the ambulance, one of the paramedics turned to David. "You probably saved her life. Another 20 minutes out here and it would have been too late." David nodded numbly. He watched the ambulance doors close and listened to the siren fade into the snowy night. Beside him, Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy," she said quietly. "That lady looked like Mommy." He pulled her close, not trusting his voice. Because his daughter was right. And he had no idea what that meant or what he was supposed to do about it. All he knew was that nothing would ever be quite the same again. David couldn't sleep that night. After he'd gotten Lily home, given her hot chocolate, and tucked her into bed, he sat in the living room in the dark, staring at nothing. His mind kept replaying the moment he'd turned that woman over in the snow. That face, those features. It was like seeing a ghost. By morning, he'd convinced himself he'd imagined the similarity. Stress did strange things to people. He'd been emotional from the recital, from hearing that song, from missing his wife. His brain had just played tricks on him in the moment. But when Lily came downstairs for breakfast, the first thing she said was, "Are we going to check on the snow lady today?" "The snow lady? The one who looked like Mommy. We should make sure she's okay." David poured cereal into a bowl, trying to keep his voice casual. "I'm sure the hospital's taking good care of her, honey. But we saved her. That means we should visit her, right?" That's what Mommy would have done. She was right about that. His wife had been the kind of person who brought meals to sick neighbors and remembered everyone's birthday. She'd taught their daughter to be kind, to care about people, even strangers. "Maybe," David said. "Let me think about it." But all through breakfast, all through getting Lily ready for school, all through his morning at work, he couldn't stop thinking about it. By lunch, he'd made up his mind. He'd go to the hospital, check on the woman, confirm that she was fine and looked nothing like his wife in proper lighting, and then he could put this whole strange episode behind him. He left work early, telling his boss he had an appointment. The hospital was across town, a 20-minute drive through streets still messy from yesterday's snow. At the front desk, he explained he was looking for the woman brought in last night with hypothermia. "Are you family?" the receptionist asked. "No, I'm the one who found her. I just wanted to make sure she's okay." The receptionist made a phone call, spoke quietly to someone, then gave him a room number. "3rd floor, room 312. She's awake now if you'd like to speak with her." David's stomach twisted as he rode the elevator up. This was crazy. He should just leave. But his feet carried him down the hallway to room 3 on 12. The door was half open. He knocked gently. "Come in," a voice called. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. The woman was sitting up in bed, looking much better than she had last night. Her color was back and someone had brushed her hair. She turned to look at him, and David's breath caught in his chest. It hadn't been his imagination. In the bright hospital lights, she still looked remarkably like his late wife. Not identical, he could see that now, but close enough to make his heart race. "Hi," she said, her voice uncertain. "Do I know you?" "I'm David. I'm the one who found you last night." Her eyes widened. "Oh my goodness. Please sit down. The doctor said someone saved my life." She gestured to the chair beside her bed. "I've been hoping you'd come by so I could thank you properly." David sat, feeling awkward. "I'm just glad you're okay. What happened?" She sighed, looking embarrassed. "Honestly, I did something really stupid. I was at the school for the piano recital last night. I teach piano, and I was there to watch some of the local students perform. After it ended, I went out to my car, but I'd left my keys inside the building. So I went back, but the door had locked behind me. I tried the other doors, but they were all locked too. Why didn't you call someone?" "My phone was in my car with my keys." I know. It was foolish. I thought I could walk to a store or something to use a phone, but the snow was so heavy and I couldn't see very well. I guess I got turned around. The last thing I remember is feeling really tired and cold. I must have fallen. The doctor said I hit my head. "You were pretty far from the main road," David said. "If we hadn't found you..." "I know." She shuddered. "I owe you my life. The nurses told me you stayed with me until the ambulance came. You gave me your coat. Anyone would have done the same. But not everyone would have actually stopped to check. You did." She smiled at him and David's chest ached. That smile was so familiar. "I'm Rachel, by the way. Rachel Morrison. Nice to meet you. Officially, I mean." They talked for a while. Rachel explained she was new to the area, a traveling piano instructor who moved around every few months, teaching at different schools and giving private lessons. She'd only been in town for 2 weeks. She had no family nearby, no one to call, no one to bring her things from her apartment. "What about your family?" David asked. "Parents? Siblings?" Something flickered across Rachel's face. "I grew up in foster care. Never knew my birth parents. I aged out of the system at 18 and have been on my own ever since. I'm sorry. Don't be. It made me tough." She smiled again, but this time it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm used to taking care of myself." David visited for another hour, and by the time he left, he'd promised to come back the next day. He told himself it was just kindness, just making sure someone alone in the hospital had a visitor. But driving home, he knew it was more than that. There was something about Rachel that pulled at him, and it wasn't just her resemblance to his wife. That evening, when Lily asked about the snow lady, David told her she was awake and doing well. Lily insisted they should visit together. So the next day after school, they went to the hospital together. Lily brought drawings she'd made, pictures of flowers and rainbows and a stick figure family. When they got to Rachel's room, Lily marched right in like she owned the place. "Hi, I'm Lily. We saved you. Are you feeling better?" Rachel laughed, and the sound was so warm and genuine that David felt something loosen in his chest. "I'm feeling much better, thanks to you and your dad." "Are those pictures for me?" "Yep. I made them at school." Lily spread them out on the bed. "This one is you, and this one is my dad, and this one is me. We're all holding hands because we're friends now." "That's beautiful. Thank you, Lily." They visited for an hour. Lily chattered away, telling Rachel about school and her friends and her piano recital. She made Rachel promise to come hear her play again sometime. Rachel listened with genuine interest, asking questions and laughing at Lily's stories. Watching them together made David's throat tight. Lily hadn't been this animated around a new person in years. She was usually shy with strangers, clinging to David's side. But with Rachel, she was completely herself. Over the next few days, they visited every afternoon. David brought Rachel magazines and snacks. Lily brought more drawings and a stuffed animal she insisted Rachel needed to help her feel better. Rachel's doctor said she could be discharged soon, but she'd need to take it easy for a while. "Where will you go?" David asked one evening after Lily had fallen asleep in the chair beside Rachel's bed. Rachel shrugged. "I'll figure something out. Maybe a hotel for a few days until I can get back on my feet. Do you have anyone who can help you? Friends in other cities?" I have colleagues, people I've worked with. But friends? She shook her head. I move around too much for that. It's easier to keep things casual. David watched his daughter sleeping, her small hand still clutching one of Rachel's. You shouldn't be alone right after getting out of the hospital. What if something happens? I'll be fine. I always am, but she didn't look fine. She looked tired and sad and alone. David made a decision that was probably crazy, probably a mistake, but felt completely right. Stay with us, he said. Rachel stared at him. What? We have a guest room. It's small, but it's comfortable. Stay with us for a week or two, just until you're feeling stronger. Lily would love it, and honestly, I'd feel better knowing someone was keeping an eye on you. David, I can't just move in with strangers. We're not strangers. You said it yourself, we're friends now. Lily made it official with that picture. He gestured to the drawing still taped to the wall. Look, I know it sounds weird, but my wife died 3 years ago, and since then, Lily hasn't really opened up to anyone new. But she's opened up to you. That means something. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Why are you really doing this? David didn't have a good answer. Or rather, he had too many answers, and none of them made complete sense. Because Rachel reminded him of his wife. Because Lily had already gotten attached. Because Rachel seemed so alone and he knew what that felt like. Because saving someone's life created a connection, whether you wanted it to or not. Because it's the right thing to do, he finally said. And because I think you need someone in your corner right now. Tears welled up in Rachel's eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Stay through the holidays at least. Give yourself time to heal properly. She wiped her eyes, laughing a little. Your wife must have been an amazing person if she taught you to be this kind. She was. Okay, Rachel whispered. Okay, yes. Thank you. When the hospital discharged Rachel 2 days later, David picked her up in the afternoon. They stopped by her small studio apartment so she could pack a bag. The place was sparse, barely any personal items, like she'd never really unpacked. It made David sad. At his house, Lily gave Rachel the full tour, showing her every room and explaining where everything was. She'd put fresh flowers from the grocery store in the guest room. To make it pretty, she explained. That first evening was awkward. They ate dinner together and the silence felt heavy. David couldn't stop noticing the little things. How Rachel cut her food the same way his wife had. How she hummed softly while washing dishes. How she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. After Lily went to bed, David and Rachel sat in the living room, both of them holding mugs of tea. Neither of them was drinking. Can I ask you something? Rachel said quietly. Sure. Lily mentioned her mom a couple times. She said she's in heaven. I don't want to pry, but car accident, David said. 3 years ago, a drunk driver ran a red light. She died at the scene. I'm so sorry. Me too. He paused. There's something I should probably tell you. Something kind of strange. What? You look like her, my wife. A lot like her, actually. That's why I stared so much when I first found you. Rachel set down her tea. Oh, I probably should have mentioned it sooner. I don't want you to think I only offered to help because of that. It's not why I'm doing this, isn't it, though? At least a little? David considered that. Maybe at first. But not now. Now I'm doing it because you need help and we can give it. That's all, but was it all? He didn't know anymore. All he knew was that having Rachel in the house felt right in a way he couldn't explain. Like something that had been broken was starting to heal, or maybe like something new was beginning to grow. The first week with Rachel in the house was strange. David kept expecting to turn a corner and find it uncomfortable, awkward, or wrong somehow. But instead it felt oddly natural. Rachel was quiet and respectful, always asking before she used something, always cleaning up after herself. She spent most of her time in the guest room or helping Lily with her piano practice. It was the piano practice that really changed things. David came home from work one Thursday to find Rachel and Lily at the piano together. Lily was playing and Rachel sat beside her, occasionally stopping her to correct a finger position or suggest a different tempo. They were laughing about something, their heads bent close together over the sheet music. No, see? This part should feel like you're telling a secret, Rachel was saying, soft and careful, like you don't want anyone else to hear. Lily tried again, and this time the notes came out gentle and mysterious. Her face lit up. I did it. You did? That was perfect. David stood in the doorway watching them. His wife had taught Lily to play before she died, but the lessons had stopped after the accident. Lily's piano teacher at school was fine, but she didn't have this. This connection. This joy. Rachel looked up and saw him. "Oh, hi. We were just working on her recital piece. It sounds great." He set down his briefcase. "Way better than when I try to help." "That's because you're terrible at piano, Daddy," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Thanks for the honesty, kid." Dinner that night was spaghetti. Rachel insisted on cooking, saying it was the least she could do. David stood at the counter making salad while Lily set the table, and something about the scene felt complete in a way it hadn't in years. He pushed the thought away. After dinner, Lily asked if Rachel would read her a bedtime story. David expected Rachel to hesitate, to suggest that was something dads did. But she just smiled and said, "I'd love to." David cleaned up the kitchen, listening to the murmur of voices from upstairs. When Rachel came back down 20 minutes later, she looked thoughtful. "She's a special kid," Rachel said. "Yeah, she is. She told me about her mom, about how you keep all her pictures up, how you still talk about her like she's just away somewhere." David tensed. "Is that bad?" "No, it's beautiful. She's not confused or hurting. She knows her mom loved her. That's a gift you've given her." They sat down in the living room. It had become their routine, these quiet evening conversations after Lily went to bed. At first they'd talked about surface things, the weather, the news, Rachel's work. But lately they'd been going deeper. "Can I ask you something?" David said. "Sure. Why do you move around so much? You said you never stay in one place for more than a few months." Rachel was quiet for a long time. "Honestly, because it's easier than putting down roots. Every time I've tried to build a life somewhere, it falls apart. Friends move away, jobs end. It started to feel like the universe was telling me I wasn't meant to stay anywhere. Or maybe you were just running." She looked at him sharply. "Running from what?" "I don't know. You tell me." Rachel pulled her knees up to her chest, looking smaller suddenly. "I spent my whole childhood waiting for a family that never came. I went through 12 different foster homes. Every time I'd start to feel comfortable to think maybe this was it, something would happen. The family would decide they couldn't handle me. Or they'd move. Or they'd get pregnant and suddenly there wasn't room for a foster kid anymore. I'm sorry. The worst part wasn't the moving. It was the hoping. Every new placement, I'd think, maybe this time it's different. Maybe this time I'll get to stay. And then I wouldn't." She wiped her eyes. "So eventually I just stopped hoping. I made peace with being alone. It hurts less when you expect it." David understood that more than he wanted to. "After my wife died, I stopped hoping too. Not about everything, but about certain things. Like I convinced myself I'd never feel that connection with someone again, that it was a one-time thing and I should just be grateful I got it at all." "Do you still believe that?" He looked at her, really looked at her. In the soft lamplight, with her guard down, she was beautiful. Not because she looked like his late wife, but because of who she was. Strong and vulnerable. Careful and brave. "I don't know what I believe anymore." The days started to blend together in the best way. Rachel officially took a job at Lily's school, teaching music 3 days a week. On the other days, she gave private lessons from the house. David would come home to the sound of piano music and children's laughter. The house, which had been so quiet for so long, was full of life again. One Saturday, they went to the park. It had snowed again overnight, and Lily wanted to build a snowman. Rachel helped her roll the giant snowballs while David worked on the head. They found sticks for arms and used one of Lily's old scarves. "He needs a face," Lily declared. "I saw some rocks over there," Rachel said, pointing. They spent 15 minutes searching for the perfect rocks. Lily insisted on approving each one. When they finally finished, the snowman looked lopsided and ridiculous, but Lily was so proud she made them take about 50 pictures. "Can we get hot chocolate?" she asked, shivering. "Of course," David said. At the cafe, they squeezed into a booth. Lily sat next to Rachel, leaning against her shoulder while she sipped her hot chocolate. David watched them, that familiar ache in his chest, but it felt different now. Less like grief and more like fear. Fear of what he was starting to feel, fear of what it might mean. That night, after Lily was asleep, David found Rachel on the back porch, wrapped in a blanket and staring up at the stars. "Cold out here," he said, stepping outside. "I like it. It's peaceful." He sat down beside her. They were quiet for a while, just listening to the winter night. Finally, David said what had been on his mind all day. "Rachel, there's something I need to tell you." "Okay." "I've been doing some research about foster care records, about adoptions." She turned to look at him. "Why?" "Because of the resemblance between you and my wife. It's not just a passing similarity, Rachel. It's striking. And you both grew up in foster care. You're both the same age. You have the same mannerisms, the same interests." I couldn't stop thinking about it. "What are you saying?" David pulled out his phone, showing her the emails he'd been exchanging with a private investigator. "I'm saying, what if it's not a coincidence? What if there's a reason you look so much like her?" Rachel stared at the screen. "You think we're related?" "I think it's possible you could be sisters. Maybe even twins. That's crazy, is it? Think about it, Rachel. The similarities aren't just physical. You both love the same music. You both have this way of tilting your head when you're thinking. You both hum the same melody when you're cooking. I noticed it the other day. It's the same song my wife used to hum." Rachel stood up, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. "Even if that's true, what does it matter?" She's gone. "Knowing we were sisters wouldn't change anything. It would change everything for you. You said you've spent your whole life wondering about your birth family. What if you had a sister? What if she was out there, living a life and neither of you ever knew? But I can't know her now. So what's the point of this? Why are you digging into this?" "Because you deserve to know the truth. About where you came from. About who you are." Rachel's voice broke. "I know who I am. I'm the person nobody wanted. I'm the kid who got shuffled around until she aged out and had to figure everything out alone. That's who I am." "No," David said firmly. "That's what happened to you. It's not who you are." She was crying now, silent tears running down her face. "Why do you care so much?" "Because—" David stopped. "Because why? Because she looked like his wife? Because Lily loved her? Because somewhere along the way, he'd started to fall for her and that scared him more than anything? Because you matter to me." "To Lily. You matter and you deserve to know your story." Rachel wiped her eyes. "What did the investigator find?" "Not much yet. But she found records showing my wife was adopted from the same agency you were. In the same year. They're sealed records, but she's working on getting access. It'll take time, but Rachel, I really think there's something here." "And if there is? If we were sisters, then what? I spend the rest of my life knowing I had this person, this connection, and I lost her before we ever met. How is that better than not knowing?" David didn't have an answer for that. They stood in the cold, the question hanging between them like frozen breath. The investigation moved slowly. The private investigator, a woman named Helen, called every few days with updates. She'd found birth records but needed DNA evidence to confirm anything. She suggested using samples from things David's wife had touched, items that might still have her DNA. David felt strange going through his wife's things for this purpose, but he did it anyway. Christmas was coming, the house filled with decorations. Lily insisted Rachel help them pick out a tree. They spent an entire afternoon at the tree farm, with Lily rejecting tree after tree until she found the perfect one. At home, they decorated while holiday music played. Rachel showed Lily how to make paper snowflakes. David made cocoa. For a few hours, David let himself pretend this was his life. Not temporary. Not complicated. Just the three of them together. On Christmas Eve, Helen called. David answered in his bedroom, keeping his voice low. "I have the results," she said. His heart hammered. "And you were right. The DNA is a match. They're identical twins, David. Your wife and Rachel. They were separated at birth." David sat down on the bed, his legs suddenly weak. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. The birth mother gave them both up for adoption on the same day. Different families took each girl. Your wife's adoptive parents were wealthy, connected. They kept the adoption private. Rachel went into the foster system when her placement fell through. Does Rachel know you were calling?" "No, you said you wanted to hear first." "Okay, thank you, Helen. Send me everything you found." David sat there for a long time after hanging up. In the living room, he could hear Rachel and Lily singing carols together, two voices blending in harmony, his daughter and the twin sister of his late wife. A family that had found each other by accident in a snowbank, on the worst night that became the most important night. He thought about telling Rachel right away. But it was Christmas Eve. Lily was happy. Rachel was smiling. The truth could wait one more day. So David stood up, put on his best smile, and went downstairs to join his family. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight, just for tonight, they could have this perfect moment. Christmas morning came with soft snow falling outside. David woke up early, unable to sleep. The DNA results sat in his email inbox like a bomb waiting to go off. He'd read through Helen's full report 3 times the night before, staring at the scientific proof that Rachel and his late wife were identical twins, separated at birth. Downstairs, he started coffee and stared out the window at the white landscape. How was he supposed to tell Rachel? What words could possibly make this easier? "You're up early." He turned to find Rachel in the doorway wearing pajamas and a cardigan, her hair messy from sleep. She looked younger like this, more vulnerable. "Couldn't sleep," he admitted. She poured herself coffee and stood beside him at the window. "Me neither. I kept thinking about what you said. About your wife and me possibly being related. Rachel, I need to tell you something." She looked at him and he saw the fear in her eyes. "You found out?" "Yes, and?" David took a breath. "You were right. You and my wife were sisters. Identical twin sisters, actually. You were born on the same day at the same hospital and separated at birth." Rachel's coffee cup slipped from her hand. David caught it before it hit the floor, setting it on the counter. She just stood there, frozen, staring at him. "Say something," he whispered. "I had a sister." Her voice was barely audible. "I had a twin sister, yes, and she's dead." "I had a sister and I never knew, and now she's gone." Rachel's knees buckled. David caught her, helping her to a chair at the kitchen table. She put her face in her hands. "I don't understand. How could this happen? How could we not know?" David sat beside her, pulling out his phone. "The investigator sent everything she found. Your birth mother gave you both up for adoption. My wife was adopted by a family here in the city. They were well off, had connections. They kept the adoption very private. You were supposed to be adopted too, but something went wrong with the placement. You ended up in foster care instead. So she grew up with a family. With parents. With everything I never had." Rachel's voice was bitter. "And I got shuffled around for 18 years, and it's not fair. None of it is fair." "Did she know? Did your wife know she was adopted? That she had a sister somewhere?" David shook his head. "Her parents never told her. I found that out from the records. They thought it would be easier for her not to know." "Easier?" Rachel laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Easier for who?" "Not for me. I spent my entire life wondering where I came from, if anyone out there looked like me, thought like me. And the whole time, there was someone exactly like me, and we never got to meet." "I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. This isn't your fault." She wiped her eyes. "Can I see her?" "Pictures, I mean." "I want to see her." David hesitated. This felt like crossing a line, but Rachel deserved this. He went to the living room and came back with a photo album. The one from his wife's childhood and teenage years. Rachel opened it with trembling hands. The first page showed a baby, maybe 6 months old, with bright eyes and a toothless smile. "That's her?" "Yes." She turned pages slowly, studying each photo. School pictures, birthday parties, a teenage girl in a prom dress, a college graduation, and in every photo Rachel was looking at a version of herself that had lived a completely different life. She was beautiful. Rachel whispered, "You look exactly like her." "No." She looked happy. "That's different." Rachel stopped on a photo of David's wife at a piano. Her hands on the keys, her face lit up with joy. She played piano too. That was her favorite thing. She said music was the only thing that made sense when everything else was confusing. "I feel the same way." Rachel touched the photo gently. "What was her name?" "You've never said." "Catherine. Katie. Catherine." Rachel said it slowly, like she was tasting the word. "My sister Catherine." They sat there for a long time, going through the album. David told stories about his wife, about her quirks and dreams and fears. Rachel listened, crying quietly, learning about the sister she'd never known. "Daddy? Rachel?" They both turned to find Lily in the doorway, still in her pajamas, clutching her favorite stuffed animal. Her eyes were wide with concern. Why is Rachel crying? Is she sad on Christmas? David wasn't sure what to say, but Rachel wiped her eyes and managed to smile. "Come here, sweetheart." Lily climbed into her lap. Rachel held her close, and David's heart ached watching them. "I'm okay," Rachel said. "Actually, your dad just told me something really special. Something about your mom. What about Mommy? Your mom and I are sisters. We were born on the same day, but we didn't know about each other. We never got to meet. But now I know, and that makes me feel close to her somehow. Lily's mouth formed a perfect O. She looked at her dad. Is that true? It's true, David confirmed. Lily hugged Rachel tighter. So you're my aunt? Like a real aunt. I guess I am. That's the best Christmas present ever. Lily bounced with excitement. We're a real family now. Mommy sent you to us from heaven. Rachel's eyes filled with fresh tears, but she was smiling now. Maybe she did. They had breakfast together, and Lily insisted on opening presents early because she was too excited to wait. She gave Rachel a handmade card that said, "To my Aunt Rachel," with drawings of stick figures holding hands. Rachel cried again, but they were better tears this time. David's present to Rachel was a silver necklace with 2 piano keys as a pendant. One key for you, one for her, he explained. So you're always connected through music. Rachel put it on and didn't take it off for the rest of the day. That evening, after Lily was in bed, David and Rachel sat in the living room with mugs of tea. The Christmas tree lights twinkled in the corner, and snow continued falling outside. I want to visit her grave, Rachel said quietly. Is that weird? No, I think that's exactly right. Will you come with me? I don't want to go alone. Of course. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Rachel said, Thank you for finding this out, for telling me. I know it couldn't have been easy. You deserved to know. There's something else I need to tell you. Rachel set down her tea, turning to face him. I've been offered a full-time position at the school. They want me to stay, to build up the music program. It would mean not traveling anymore. Staying here, David's heart jumped. That's great. Is it? I mean, would it be weird? Me staying here in the same town where she lived, being close to you and Lily? Rachel, you're Lily's aunt. You're family now. Of course you should stay. But what about you? Is it strange for you having me around? I look like her. I remind you of her every day. That can't be easy. David had been thinking about this for weeks. At first, yes. The resemblance was hard. But Rachel, you're not her. You're your own person. And honestly, getting to know you has been one of the best things that's happened to us in 3 years. Really? Really? You've brought life back into this house. Lily is happier than I've seen her since her mom died. She laughs more. She plays piano with joy instead of obligation. And me? He paused, trying to find the right words. You've reminded me that it's okay to feel things again. To hope for things. Rachel looked down at her hands. I've been scared to hope. My whole life, every time I let myself hope for something, it fell apart. I know the feeling. But being here with you and Lily, it's the first time I felt like maybe I could belong somewhere. Like maybe this could be real. It is real. David reached over and took her hand. You're not going anywhere unless you want to. This is your home now if you want it to be. Rachel squeezed his hand. I want it to be. The next day, they took Lily to the cemetery. It was a cold, clear morning, and the snow from Christmas had left everything white and peaceful. They walked through the rows of headstones until they reached Catherine's grave. Rachel stood there for a long time, just looking at the name carved in stone. Finally, she knelt down and touched the cold marble. Hi, she whispered. I'm Rachel. I'm your sister. I wish I'd known you. I wish we'd had time. Lily came and stood beside her, putting a small hand on Rachel's shoulder. David hung back, giving them space. Mommy would have loved you, Lily said. I know she would. I would have loved her too. They stayed for a while. Rachel talking quietly to the sister she'd never met, telling her about the life she'd lived, about being alone and scared and always wondering, telling her about finding David and Lily, about how it felt like coming home. When they finally left, Rachel seemed lighter somehow. Like a weight she'd been carrying her whole life had been set down. Over the next few weeks, Rachel settled into her new job and found an apartment nearby. But she spent most of her time at David's house, having dinner with them, helping Lily with homework, becoming part of their daily rhythm. One night in mid-January, David found Rachel sitting on the porch again, wrapped in her blanket. He brought out 2 mugs of hot chocolate and sat beside her. Penny for your thoughts? He said. I was just thinking about fate, about how if I hadn't gone to that recital, if it hadn't snowed that night, if you hadn't found me, I'd still be out there somewhere alone, never knowing about Catherine. Never knowing about you and Lily. I think about that too. Do you think she knew somehow? Your wife, do you think she led me here? David considered that. I don't know if I believe in that kind of thing. But I know this. If she could see us now, if she could know that her sister found us and that Lily has an aunt who loves her, I think she'd be happy. I think she'd want this for all of us. I hope so. Rachel turned to look at him. David, can I ask you something? Anything. When you look at me, do you see her? Or do you see me? It was the question that had been hovering between them for weeks. David took his time answering because he wanted to get it right. When I first met you, I saw her. The resemblance was all I could see. But now I see you, Rachel. I see someone brave and kind and genuine. I see someone who's overcome more than most people ever face and still chose to be gentle with the world. I see someone my daughter loves, someone who makes her laugh and encourages her dreams. And I see someone I care about, not because of who you look like, but because of who you are. Rachel's eyes shimmered with tears. I've been so scared that I'm just a replacement. A substitute for what you lost. You're not a replacement. You could never be. You're something completely different. Something new. What are we doing here, David? What is this becoming? He knew what she was asking. The question that had been building between them, growing stronger every day. I don't know, but I know I want to find out. If you do. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned over and rested her head on his shoulder. I do. I'm scared, but I do. David put his arm around her and they sat there in the cold, watching the stars, feeling the weight and possibility of the future stretching out before them. Inside, Lily was sleeping, safe and loved. Outside, the world was quiet. And for the first time in 3 years, David felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. Spring came slowly, melting the snow inch by inch and revealing the world underneath. Rachel had been living in her apartment for 2 months now, but she still spent most evenings at David's house. It had become their routine. She'd come over after work, help Lily with piano practice, stay for dinner, and then she and David would talk late into the night. They hadn't defined what they were yet. They held hands sometimes. They shared looks that lingered a bit too long. But neither had taken the next step. It felt too big, too complicated. What if it ruined everything? What if Lily got confused? What if they were just filling the empty spaces in each other's lives and calling it something more? One Saturday morning in March, Rachel knocked on the door earlier than usual. When David answered, she was holding a folder. I need to show you something, she said. They sat at the kitchen table while Lily watched cartoons in the living room. Rachel opened the folder and spread out papers. Birth certificates, hospital records, adoption documents, photos. Helen sent me more information, Rachel explained, about our birth mother. Her name was Claire Morrison. She was 19 when she had us, single, no family support. She tried to keep us for a few weeks, but she couldn't manage. David studied a photo of a young woman with Rachel's eyes. Have you tried to find her? Helen already did. She died 6 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. Rachel shook her head. I'm not sad exactly. I never knew her, but there's this weird feeling of being so close to answers and still having them just out of reach. I have all these records, all this information, but the one person who could tell me what really happened, why everything went the way it did, she's gone. What do you want to know? Why she gave us both up? Why Catherine went to a family and I went to the system? If she ever thought about us? If she regretted it? Rachel touched the photo of their mother. I read through all the social worker notes. She visited Catherine's adoptive family once before the adoption was finalized, just to see her one last time. But there's no record of her coming to see me. Maybe she couldn't bring herself to. Maybe it hurt too much. I'll never know. David reached across the table and took her hand. You deserved better. You both did? Yeah, we did. Rachel smiled sadly. But I've been thinking about something. Catherine got a good life. She had parents who loved her, a stable home, everything I never had. And in a way, maybe that's enough. Maybe knowing one of us got the happy ending makes it a little better. Is that really how you feel? I'm trying to feel that way. Some days are easier than others. They sat quietly for a moment. Then Rachel said, there's something else. Helen found Catherine's adoption file. Her parents left letters in there explaining why they never told her she was adopted. Do you want to know what they said? Only if you want to tell me. They said they thought it would be easier for her. Less confusing. They loved her so much that they convinced themselves she was really theirs. that the biology didn't matter. They planned to tell her when she was older, but the right time never came. And then she met you and she was so happy, and they thought, why disrupt that? Why bring up the past when the present was so good? They meant well, David said, I know. But she died never knowing where she came from, never knowing she had a sister. That's what gets me. All those years we were living in the same city and we never knew. Lily wandered into the kitchen, climbing into Rachel's lap. What are you guys talking about? Just grown-up stuff, Rachel said, wrapping her arms around the little girl. Boring stuff? Kind of boring, yeah. Can we go to the park? Please, it's so nice outside. David looked out the window. She was right. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and spring flowers were starting to bloom. Sure, let's go to the park. They spent the afternoon outside. Lily ran around, climbed on everything, and made friends with every kid she met. David and Rachel sat on a bench watching her. She's amazing, Rachel said. You've done such a good job with her. I've had help. Especially lately. I'm not her mother, David, I know. But you're something important to her. Something she needs. Rachel watched Lily swing, her dark hair flying. I never thought I'd have this. A family. People who want me around. I kept waiting for it to fall apart, for you to realize you don't actually need me. Rachel. But it hasn't fallen apart. And every day that goes by, I believe a little more that maybe it won't. Maybe this is real. David turned to face her. It is real. I need you to know that. This isn't about Catherine. This isn't about guilt or obligation or filling a space. You're here because we want you here. Because Lily loves you. Because He stopped. Because you what? Because I'm falling for you. Have been for a while now. And I know that's complicated and messy and probably a terrible idea, but it's the truth. Rachel stared at him. You're falling for me? Yes. Not because I look like her. Not because you look like her. Because you make me laugh. Because you're patient with Lily. Because you hum when you cook. Because you see the best in people even when they've let you down. Because being around you makes me feel like myself again. The version of myself I thought I'd lost. Tears rolled down Rachel's cheeks. I'm falling for you too. And it terrifies me. Why? Because I've never had anything good that lasted. I'm afraid I'll mess this up. I'm afraid you'll wake up one day and realize I'm not what you thought I was. What if you wake up and realize I'm not what you thought I was? That's not going to happen. Then why would the reverse happen? David wiped away her tears with his thumb. Rachel, we're both scared. We've both been hurt. But we're here together, and that has to mean something. It means everything, she whispered. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she might break. She kissed him back, her hands coming up to frame his face. When they pulled apart, they were both crying a little. Daddy! Rachel, look at me! They looked up to see Lily hanging upside down from the monkey bars, her face red from the blood rushing to her head. Very impressive, David called. Don't fall. I won't. I'm good at this. They laughed and the tension broke. Rachel leaned against David's shoulder, and he put his arm around her. They sat like that for a long time, watching Lily play, feeling the warmth of the sun in each other. The next few months passed in a blur of good moments. Rachel started staying over more often, sleeping in the guest room but joining them for breakfast, for bedtime routines, for all the small rituals that made up a life. Lily started calling her Aunt Rachel without prompting. The three of them went to movies, cooked together, argued about what to watch on TV. One night in June, after Lily was asleep, Rachel and David sat in the backyard. The summer air was warm and fireflies danced in the darkness. I got offered a permanent contract at the school, Rachel said. Full-time with benefits. They want me to stay long-term. That's wonderful. It is, but it means really committing. No more running away when things get hard, putting down actual roots. And how do you feel about that? Rachel smiled. Terrified. And ready. Both at the same time. I know that feeling, she turned to him. David, where do you see this going? Us, I mean. Honestly? I don't know exactly. But I know I want you in my life. In Lily's life. Not as Catherine's